Thank you again for meeting with me. You're one of the first lawyers that I'm interviewing as a part of the series. So the goal is to just kind of expose younger kids to like the different fields of law. Because I know there's so many different like subsects of law, and it can be kind of stressful at times, like not knowing exactly what's what. So hopefully this will be helpful to a lot of other kids and definitely to me. So if you want to start just like introducing yourself and talking about like the field of law that you work in, how you got there.
I wish I had a resource like this growing up. I became a lawyer and didn't have lawyer parents, so I definitely had to figure some of this out on my own as well. So I think it's a really helpful resource. I'm Emily Jenkinson. My title is a corporate counsel at Amazon Web Services. I support a part of the AWS sales and marketing organization, which actually works on selling and marketing the technical services that AWS offers to all the different large companies that use AWS services to run their businesses. It's a large cloud computing company. My role is, to provide legal guidance on the issues that arise in those scenarios. The fun thing about the role I'm in now is it's really applying laws that you hear about in the news, like data privacy, and now Gen AI is hot, and there's a kind of a forthcoming area of law around AI. The EU is looking to implement an AI Act. We have to kind of figure out what that means for how we use those services. And I work with other lawyers who are, advising folks on how to build those services and compliance laws. I've been working at Amazon, specifically AWS, for about 4.5 years now. I have been in a couple different roles since working here at this company, which is one of the nice things about working at a large company is you can explore even different areas of law because Amazon, as we all know, does a lot of different things and sells a lot of different services. At one point when I was here, I was working on large deals, like negotiating contracts with some of AWS's largest customers. Now I support a technical team that implements tools like Zoom we're using, or even builds other kind of business tools that folks use for productivity and like their day-to-day work management styles. And also the kind of recommendations that our folks are using to implement AI and other kinds of tech software to ensure that kind of we're recommending making recommendations to our customers about how they can optimize their use of services, kind of engaging with them in the ways that sellers and marketers do. I came to AWS after working at a law firm. Since I graduated law school up until this point, I worked at a couple different law firms in Chicago post-graduation for about 5 to 6 years. And the area that I was in was mergers and acquisitions, which is kind of a broad category of the clients that I were working with were often startups, folks who were building tools. Oftentimes I was working with clients who are different businesses who had specific legal questions. So we'd kind of figure out a plan to get into compliance at that point. And the thing that personally felt a little less motivating was that I wanted to be able to be part of the process in which you always are in compliance, in which a company is aware of their compliance obligations and how to actually take law and implement it with the people in your everyday environment. And it was often an afterthought. So that's how I ended up at AWS. I kind of wanted to be part of the solution as something's developed. And AWS and Amazon as a company, they have a lot going on. They're always building new things to try and delight customers. Their mission or catchphrase is very focused on customer obsession. So what do consumers want? How do we make it easier and safer and more secure for them? And I think that's what appealed to me about that vision of being a lawyer at a large company is you can have a lot of impact.
It was interesting to see how you shifted from working in a law firm to a big company. Was that difficult at first?
It really was. There in any work environment, I think there are different norms and the individuals you work with every day. I'm sure in a classroom setting, it's different to how one teacher wants something delivered as opposed to another. In a law firm setting, it's, for me at least, it was a bit more of a conservative and a little bit slower mindset of a work environment. the law is not always a quickly evolving area. And a law firm is, often advising on, specific issues.
Mhm.
So it can be a little bit, just a bit slower of an environment. Things are done the way they're done, and folks are often resistant to change. And so moving to a company where its reputation and the way that it operates, like a big core part of the way Amazon operates, is to move very quickly and to be at the forefront of development. So that was a big like shift. But and then Amazon is its own kind of world and has its own norms, just like any company. So
Mhm.
um, yeah, it was a big shift.
Could you describe what you do on a daily basis for your job now?
Yeah. So my day-to-day activities are often meeting with the specific teams that I support on their ongoing initiatives where we've like kind of identified that something might have a legal issue. So sometimes, things. So I'll meet with the teams. This morning, I had a meeting with a group that's developing Gen AI services, and they're using our internal Amazon services to provide a tool for internal sellers and to use. So we went through like what kind of actual like licenses apply to the services, and then kind of making sure that the data that we're using to drive that use of service is consistent with our contractual obligations to customers. So we have, NDA, non-disclosure agreements in place with customers to make sure that only the people at Amazon who have a need to know their confidential company information do. Like we don't just allow anyone to access any piece of information. So we kind of tick through the legal issues that I just described and talk through what measures we're putting in place to comply with those different obligations. When I'm not in a meeting like that, for example, kind of talking through legal compliance and its application to the tools, I might be working with other lawyers on what exactly are the legal issues right now with, for example, Gen AI. So how do I research that there's a new EU AI Act coming out, and how are they intending to regulate the issue? How does that relate to what the folks that I'm supporting are doing? So kind of doing that research and thought. And another area is I'm a manager. I work on a team of lawyers. There is some, collaboration amongst the legal team. So those are kind of some areas that take up my day-to-day time.
If you had to choose, what would you say that your favorite like parts of your work would be?
Yeah, I really like learning new things. It's always a bit, I guess, a bit of an uncomfortable process at first when like something you don't know anything about.
Mhm.
And you have to learn it and actually provide guidance on it. But that's kind of what I like about working at a fast moving company. So my favorite thing about my job is that I work in an area where there's always kind of something new going on. There's the new technology that's being released, and we have to apply law that was written in some cases, decades ago and applied to like one set of facts. And what we, especially in a technology environment, technology was very different 20 years ago when some of these laws were written. So having to think about how we apply that in a modern context and kind of learning the new issues, kind of the problem solving of applying static law to a developing technology area.
Mhm. Yeah. So what would you say your biggest achievements are that you're the most proud of?
It's interesting because I've had different areas of practice in the law. So I feel like I can say I'm right now feeling really proud of the team that I work on and the lawyers that I manage and how much they've developed. In my own kind of, I guess, just certainly proud of some of the larger deals that I worked on that were really challenging. And there's lots of kind of little accomplishments along the way of that don't feel might not feel like big milestones, but I know that I'm protecting lots of individuals like personal information and its treatment by a large company to make sure that we're actually living up to our commitments. So that feels like an achievement, and that's something that keeps me going these days.
So what kind of first sparked your interest in law?
For me, it was in school. In high school in particular, I did activities like Model UN and did lots of clubs. And my teachers and family would tell me that I'd kind of almost in jest, like, you'd be a good lawyer someday, because I always like wanted to debate or at least understand why someone thought something, especially if it was different than what I thought
Yeah.
was the right result. So but when I got to college and I was studying journalism, I guess I had taken that advice or that sense of like wanting to figure out the root of an issue in a journalistic direction. And then when I took this class on First Amendment law, it was all about, free speech, freedom of press, particularly the role that the press plays in kind of shaping and preserving democracy, making sure that the general public is aware of what's going on, what their rights are, and the protections that the law affords the press were really interesting to me, like that we have that baked into our Constitution. So that kind of seed of interest in the law got me going down a bit of a legal track of more even elective courses in undergrad. I continued to study and majored in journalism and English and American literature because I was a big reader and writer, and then decided to go to law school after undergrad. So that's how I that's how I went
Yeah.
that path. Kind of has taken, it's been a journey from that particular area of legal interest to where the kind of law I practice now. But the law applies in a lot of different facets of our culture and society. So have kind of just followed my interests as
Mhm.
time's gone on.
What would you say the most influential steps that you took that were like important to getting you where you are now?
I when I was in law school, I did a lot of different internships, and I kind of worked in different legal practice areas as I was learning, the letter of the law that you do in law school. You take a lot of courses and you learn the laws themselves and how they were crafted. And then since I didn't grow up in a family with lawyers or really have much experience with what that looked like day to day, I kind of took it upon myself to work in for different types of law firms, doing different types of practice areas, trying to understand like what it felt like to, work. I worked for judges where I learned like what is it like to be in court every day and what is their a judge's role, and also, the prosecutors and defense attorneys who were appearing before the court, kind of what was their role, what would it look like day to day to go through that process. And for me, it didn't. I liked the corporate environment. It moved a bit quicker. It applies it in a modern setting, and frankly, the court was a bit more adversarial than I preferred. Even though I guess a contract negotiation can be adversarial, but anyhow, that's the different qualities of the practice areas and different experimenting with different jobs that I learned, what I liked, what I didn't like. So it was really influential to just try a bunch of things, which I think is a general like
Yeah.
advice that people probably give to younger kids, but it worked for me.
Yeah, kind of on that note of advice, you have other advice that you would give to kids who are like starting on that journey?
Yeah. I mean, I think that is like, it's, have that curiosity of building a subject matter. Like if you have an interest in a particular type of law, try and just go for it and explore it. But I would also pair it with like, some other skill area. If you're interested in how it applies to tech, it would help to have technical skills. Like if you're interested in actually like being in court, it involves a lot of like writing. So how can you improve your writing skills? Like I think so much of this is intertwined with different skill sets. So it would just be to explore and to figure out what interests you, because practicing it is just a matter of like building expertise over time. So it helps if you're just genuinely interested in what's coming out next.
If you have final words of like inspiration for like especially young women, because I know it can be tough starting in this field with not that many people who look like you probably.
Yeah, it's becoming more diverse and more inclusive, which is great. But it is, it's a field where you are encouraged to express your opinions vocally and, have debate in order to get to the right answer. My parting words would just be like, to have confidence. Everyone brings a different perspective, and the only way we get to like a better, more collaborative like result, the best result, is to have more people with different opinions talking it through. It's becoming more clear that everyone's invited to the conversation, and we're all trying to get to the right result. So the more we can be a part of that inclusivity process, the better.
Definitely. Yeah, this was so helpful. Thank you so much for just kind of providing like your perspective on this.
Yeah, I feel like the more people, young people we have like trying to be interested in it and keep it moving in the right direction, the better. So I hope that's true.